Hello everybody. Well, here's a bit of a funny story. This is take 2 of tag number 5 because I'd started this and I'd got halfway through doing it when I just happened to look up and my computer decided to tell me that it was totally full, it had no memory left and it wasn't going to record. So hopefully take 2 will just be a bit better maybe than take 1. Hope everybody's well. You'll notice we're going quite minimal, well, incredibly minimal this week. We are doing trapped. We're going to trap things, and I sort of got this idea because I have dishes and jars and stuff on the side where I've got things I've collected from the beach and walks and all different sorts of things. And I just thought, seeing as I've got things hung up in front of me where I'm working, it'd be quite nice to have some of the bits so I could see them rather than them being in dishes. So we're going to trap some on our bunting or our flag today, or whatever it is that you're working on. So all you're going to need is a piece of fabric and some threads. So I have got a cream in a DMC 8, and then I have this really lovely 100% cotton thread from Sheepies. It's their Maxi Sweet Treat. They do a gorgeous range of colours. It's a bit like a sweetie shop, hence Sweet Treats. Yeah, got me all from bits and pieces. So I've got my couple of needles threaded up. I have my tag ready with my number 5 on, and I have my 3 items that I am going to trap on my flag. These are shells that I got from Shell Island in Wales nearly 2 years ago now. It's February half term before the pandemic really kicked off. We had a lovely day walking on the beach collecting lots of different shells. It's somewhere that I definitely want to go back to, so that's what I'm going to do. So I've just laid them out and we're going to trap them with stitch onto our piece of fabric. So what I've done is I have doubled my fabric because these are a little bit heavier. I didn't really want the fabric, I just thought once I'd stitched them on would be a little bit flimsy, so I have doubled it up. I've drawn on with my pencil around my template. I really like this fringing, so I'm going to have the fringing going down the side. We're basically just going to stitch them on. So I'm going to start with my cream thread and my smallest shell at the bottom. Okay, so we're just going to do some really simple stitches to start off with. Oh, just going to prick my finger. It's like being Rapunzel, but not. Yeah, so just using my cream thread, all I'm going to do is just a couple of little straight stitches just to hold everything in place, and then we'll play around with other stitches that we can do or other ways of trapping things down. But I just thought, you know what, this week let's keep it nice and simple. Hardest thing will be choosing what bits to trap down. It's a bit of a smile. I don't know why when I say the word trapped I can remember a programme when, well, it was when I was younger, but it was probably more my sister would have watched it, called The Trapdoor. It's like a Play-Doh sort of stop frame animation thing. So don't you open the trapdoor. Loved it. Introduced both my kids to it. It's one of my favourites. Now because we're jumping between one side and another, you just need to make sure you don't get that tension on that little bit there too much, otherwise it'll scrunch up what you've been doing, and we don't want to distort our flag. So I'm just going to check they're going to fit. Yep. So you can take inspiration as to where, or not inspiration I suppose, an indication of where to stitch depending on the item that you're trapping down. So the first one I've done top and bottom. This one I think I might do it in 3 places, do a bit of a triangle. There we go. Just pull it out so that I know that I'm keeping it nice and flat. So I'm going to come out this way. So I hope everybody's well today. Loving seeing everybody's flags on Instagram and YouTube. Thank you for sharing them. They're looking beautiful. Just loving how everybody puts a slightly different interpretation on the themes. Some people stick to it, other people go rogue. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Sometimes when people go rogue, I get a bit like, oh, why didn't I think about that? Why didn't I consider that as an idea? It's great really, because sometimes it gives me ideas for future ones as well. Okay, so do I go that way around or that way around? I think we'll go thinner at the top. Yeah, thinner at the top. Okay, so I'm obviously just using a little straight stitch to start off with, and this is just to get it trapped in place. And once it's trapped in place, then you can do whatever type of stitching you want to do. I don't really want to do too much stitching because I don't want to hide the objects. So I've gone 1, 2, might do 4 on this one. You don't want to lose the beauty of what you have trapped down. So it could be an item from a walk or something you've collected or you've found. It'd be quite nice if it'd be something based on nature. I know here in the UK we're in the middle of winter, so it's quite nice. It's like bringing a little bit of the outdoors indoors, or a reminder of a summer holiday or a favourite place that you've been. If you haven't got anything, if you can, get out for a walk, go and see what you can find or collect to trap onto your piece of fabric. Right, so I've done 4 little stitches on that one. There we go, quite liking that. So actually I never really thought about it. When I chose the colour, I just pulled the fabric out because I like that, but actually it's like sand. Never even thought about that. I just pulled the fabric out and thought, oh, I like the fringing, but actually the colour fits really, really nicely. It's looking a little bit like sand. Okay, scissors, there we go. Okay, so right, what I'm going to do next then is I'm going to do a running stitch around the edge, just so that it gets it all together, and then I can sort of cut it out a little bit and start playing with it a little bit more. So I'm going to use my grey thread here to take the pins out as I start, because it just makes it a bit easier just to manipulate the fabric on your needles. So I'm going to do a running stitch through both layers of fabric. Oops, pulled that a bit tight on. Hopefully this video is still running. Yes, it is. Jolly good, because the thought of having to do it again does not fill me with hope. I've got some of the threads running through there. Okay, off we go again. I suppose really I could have done this bit first, but I get a bit excited when you've got an idea bubbling up in your head. You just want to crack on with it. That seems to have been my favourite word at the moment at school. We're in the midst of trying to get all our exam groups cracking on with everything, so it seems to be a word that I'm using quite a lot to try and get them to crack on with everything. Oops. I'm glad I used 2 layers of fabric. It's definitely made it feel a little bit more substantial, which when you're stitching slightly bulkier or heavier items on, it can mean that it doesn't just hang properly. There we go. So let's come round to that side. down to the point. Oh, I'm liking this. Do like it when you get an idea in your head. Then you sit down and you just think, oh, I don't know if this is going to work. And I know sometimes I've done some of these, especially some of the ones last year, you end up being part way through what you're doing and you just think, this really is not working at all. But keep going, it'll come together. It'll be fine. And usually, she says, usually it is okay. So I've done this fringing down the side, mainly because I just thought it'd be a bit different on the side of my tag. Not my tag, flag. Goodness me, I should be used to that by now. I probably shouldn't have called it flags because it does sound too much like tags, but I didn't want to say bunting all the time because it just takes forever to type it all in. Like 52 bunting just doesn't roll off the tongue at all. Okay. Sometimes you get your thread, once you've been stitching for a while, your thread sort of goes a bit twisty and it can just end up looping back on itself and making a little knot, which is a little bit annoying. God, that's looking quite cute. Right, we get up to the top, and then what I've done at the top is I've made the back of it a little bit longer than the front. So bring that to the front. So then what I can do is I can now come down, I'll trim this. Up. So I did it slightly off centre because of the fringing, because that sort of takes up some of the tag. Right, I'm take that stitch to the back, and then what I'm going to do is this little bit here that I've left hanging over, I'm just going to fold it and then fold it again, so it just gives us a really nice neat top. Pop a couple of pins in. There we go. And then I can, just with my thread, put a pin in, take it out, put a pin in, take it out. Sounds like it should be some sort of nursery rhyme. There we go, it's a bit thicker that, it's a bit harder to get the needle through. So this gives you the basic sort of structure of your flag. You've got the start of your bits being trapped on, and you've then constructed the fabric, and obviously you can do these in any order that you want to. If you wanted to do it in one go, so like if you've got a piece of vintage quilting or something like that, or a fabric that was a little bit sturdier, you may not need to do it double. You might be okay just doing it in one go. Go. And one more. Okay, right, then what I was going to do was, it's quite nice having a running stitch, but there are ways that you can make even a running stitch look a little bit more interesting. Excuse me. Right, tie this off at the back, And then I'm going to grab my cream thread again. So just tie it off, just do a little stitch, create your loop, pop your needle through it, create a little knot. Okay, right, so I'm going to get a bit more of my cream. So we really are being quite minimal with the materials that we're using this week. Can't find the end. Oh, there we go. So, busy stitching this. Just had one of my kids have just yelled mum. Okay, so I'm just getting my cream thread. And what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to wrap it around the running stitch that I've just done. So, start at one side, so you come up where your thread comes out. Just pull this up here. So I've just brought my thread up. I'm going to use the other side of my needle, and I'm just going to take, just mainly if you've got a blunt needle, that'd be fine. But what I'm going to do is go underneath that grey stitch. So I'm going from the outside in. Then do the same next one down, outside in. Hold that up so you can see. So going from the outside through there, pull it down, and what it does is it starts wrapping it around your thread. So you just keep going down, and for every stitch you're just going to go from the outside in. And it's just going to create a really pretty border around the edge. Now you don't have to have fringing at all. I just did that because I found a bit of fabric. I just think it adds another texture to your piece. So I'm going to get down to the bottom, keep trapping all these bits in. Behave. There we go. Outside in. Oops. Trapped around with pins on my board. Now what I'm going to do then when I come down to the bottom is I'm going to go through to the back, and then I'll start again at the other side, because if I go from the outside in round that point, it's going to distort the bottom of my bunting. It just adds, you could add another colour, it just adds a bit more of a defined edge to your piece, and I think wrapping it is just lovely. So you could use a totally contrasting thread, so I could have gone like for a really yellow, but I wanted to pick out the colours of the limpet shells really. There we go. And then when you get to the top and you've done, just go through that last stitch to the back and tie it off again. Oh, that's looking cute. Oh, I'm thinking, should I do it across the top as well? Quite like the highlight. I might have to do it across the top as well. I think sometimes you come up with ideas and you just think, well, hope it's going to look okay, and then you end up doing more than you intended just because it just doesn't look quite right. If you're not quite sure and I think I've said this before, one of the best things you can do is, well, either go away and have a cup of tea and come back, or take a photograph of what you've been doing, go and have a cup of tea, and then have a look at the photograph. Because what a photograph does, it flattens your piece down, and sometimes you can see the composition or the planning or just how it's laid out just a little bit easier than actually if you're looking at it in real time, which sounds a little bit bonkers, but let's just go and pull that. Just pulled all that now. Does sound a bit bonkers, but it really does work. It just means that you sort of take yourself away from the stitching that you've been doing, and you look at it a little bit like if you were looking at a book or a magazine or something like that. There we go. That's better. I like that. Now I want to get some of the grey onto my limpets. So what I'm going to do, I'm still going to keep it really simple because I don't want to cover up too much. So all I'm going to do is, where I've done my little straight stitches, just either side of it, I'm just going to do one cross stitch, just so that there's another colour just over the top. So where I've done my first trapping stitches, I'm just going to do little crosses from one side to the other. So I've got the cream in the middle and then the grey over the top. I don't need to pull my thread too tight because that first stitch that we've done is the one that's trapped it down. Now if you've got things like this, like I've got with mine, they've got holes in the middle, there's no reason why you couldn't do some stitching into the middle. It might be quite nice. Just to add another little bit of something, a bit of a texture. So with this one, really, you can make it as complicated or as simple as you can, and I think that's one of the things you need to take from all these pieces of work, because we've all, well, hopefully everybody's lives are beginning to pick up again, and I know I'm having to get used to working again on a weekend, running the workshops and things, which I haven't done for such a long time. And so some weeks I've got lots of time, so I can do tags that, not tags, and stop it, the flags that we can spend a bit more time on, or if I've got a busy week, we'll have a simple tag. But you can make these as simple or as complicated as you want. I know I keep saying that, I'm sort of repeating myself, aren't I? As if I'm running out of things to say. That never happens. Okay, so there's that one, that one, and that one. I think I am going to do a few French knots just to finish it off. Oh, I like that. That's really cute. It's nice to have these shells. It'd be nice to have them up in front of me. Determined, if you are over in Wales, hello. We've done Wales quite a few holidays, a couple of February half terms, which has been absolutely divine. I love it. We had 2 summer holidays there, and it did rain both summer holidays, but it was fine apart from the fact we were camping. Got slightly drowned out. Okay, so just very quickly, just to pick up a little bit inside each of my limpets, I'm just going to do a few little French knots. I think just to break up that yellow a little bit. So French knots oops, come up through your fabric, get that nice and straight. You don't have to do this, but if you want to do French knots, point your thread and your needle away from the hole, wrap it round 3 or 4 times, and then you go back down, just hold on to that thread. It makes you, oh, that's why it's gone funny. Pulled a bit of fabric through with it. There we go. And you just go back through, so hold it away, 1, 2, 3, back down, just pull that thread, so you pull your knot down to the bottom of the needle, and then you just pull it through, and that then fixes it in place. They are worth getting your head round. We will be doing French knots at some point, no doubt. So they are some of my favourite knots. And if you've done the challenges last year, you also know that I love a bullion knot. Rest assured that will be coming at some point, or will be included in a tag at some point. Oh, I'm glad I've done those, they look really cute. Just adds a little bit of interest. Don't need too many. So I've done 5 in the top one and do 3 in this one. Odd numbers always work. Unless obviously you're doing something symmetrical. But then even it could be an odd numbered symmetrical thing. I can't believe I'm actually going to finish a tag in one video. It's nice to be able to do that, I think, every so often. So what's this? 26 minutes so far. That's quite a nice length. Half an hour for a tag. Even though it is take 2. What's that look like? Yeah, I think I need a few more in that bottom one. Let's maybe just wrap it twice. Let's get them a little bit smaller. That's better. Yeah, so once you do French knots, because you're spinning it, every so often it's a good idea just to let go of your needle. Just let it spin round, let it undo itself. Go. There we are. Hey! Whoop whoop. Done dusted. Love it. I just love doing these. You feel so accomplished when you finish something. It feels so good. Right, so we need to attach it. Oh, that's exciting. It's like nearly half an hour and I've done a tack. So that's going to go onto there. Oh, that looks cute. Oh, look at that. Lovely jubilee. Right, so attaching it is just a bit of glue at the top just to hold it. Choose a glue stick, but you can use fabric glue, whatever you want, and all that's doing is it's just going to hold it in place, and then I can just stitch it. What colour shall we go for? Maybe grey. A bit more of that. So I suppose the stitching really is quite just decorative. You could just glue it on, but I just like the idea of stitching it because it sort of gives that illusion that it's actually stitched onto the tag when it's not. Nobody needs to know. Can't. Oh, the computer better not go off this time. I'm definitely not unpicking it all now and redoing it again. My needle doesn't want to thread. Come on, there we go. Okay, right, let's stitch this through. Right, take the little flags off. Just open it up. And just get the needle, poke it through to the back so I know where I'm coming through. Through to the front. Oops, picked up some little threads then. Go, just come up from the back, back down the hole. I think I might just do one at either end this week rather than any more. Try and do different things each week when I stitch it on. Flip it round. That's it. Right, so tie it off at the back. Just run it underneath one of the threads that's there a couple of times. Create your loop, pop your thread through a couple of times, create a little knot, pull it down. And all this is going to be covered up when we end up coming back the other way, because there'll be a tag on the other side. Well, that's how I'm going to do it anyway, and then they'll get glued shut. We'll also start looking at decorations, because I've already thought about, once I put them back together again, it'd be quite nice to have tassels and things like that hanging down from them, but we'll come to that once we start coming back the other way. So there we have it. Oh blimey, simple tag, second take, absolutely crackers. So this week I cannot wait to see what you're going to trap onto your flag. Don't forget to share on Facebook and Instagram. Facebook, just go to my page and have a look for that week's community post and just put a picture of your flag on there. And on Instagram, if you use the hashtags when you do your blurb, and then if you search the hashtags and follow them, you'll see everybody else's. So happy Flag Fridays, everybody. Oh, it's Flag Friday in February. FFF. Okay, awesomeness. See you next week.